Let's talk about a number. And no, I'm not talking about your retirement goal or getting to $1,000,000. I'm talking about a number that can fundamentally change who you are. This isn't about what you can buy, it's about what you can be. And honestly, it might just be the most important number in personal finance that almost nobody is talking about.
You know this feeling. It's Tuesday morning, a meeting invite from your manager just pops up on your screen. No subject, no agenda. And you get that sinking feeling in your stomach. You know you're about to sit there nodding along to something you totally disagree with, not because you think they're right, but because rent is due in 11 days, and you literally cannot afford for this conversation to go badly.
You know that exhaustion you feel at the end of the day? The one that comes from spending 8 hours pretending you don't have strong opinions? Well, that isn't a confidence problem. It's not even really a career problem. It's a math problem. And the really good news, it has a specific numerical solution.
Okay, so before we can actually get to the solution, we have to wrap our heads around the scale of the problem. So let's just take a look at the hard data that defines that financial stress that so many of us feel every single day.
I mean, the scale of this thing is just staggering. 62% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. But get this isn't just a low-income problem. Nearly half, 44%, of all households earning over $100,000 a year are in the exact same boat.
And here's where you really see the disconnect. The median American household has about $8,000 in savings. Seems okay, right? But at the same time, the Federal Reserve found that nearly 4 in 10 adults can't even cover a simple $400 emergency with cash. It just goes to show you how fragile most people's financial lives really are.
So, what's the number that solves this? It's $3,000. $3,000 a month in passive income. Now, this isn't some lifestyle number for retiring early and living on a beach. This is a floor number. It's the number that completely changes your relationship with work, with risk, and with money itself.
So why $3,000? Where does that come from? Well, it comes from research by the United Way, based on their ALICE budget. ALICE stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed. It basically calculates the bare bones absolute minimum monthly cost for a single adult to just survive. We're talking no Netflix, no takeout, just the essentials.
And when you look across most of the country, that survival number lands somewhere between $2,300 and $2,800 a month. So, here's the crucial point. $3,000 a month in passive income, money that shows up whether you go to a job or not, gets you over that survival threshold. It means no matter what happens, the lights stay on and the rent gets paid.
All right, so how does this actually create a different life? Let's make this real. I want to introduce you to two people, Alex and Marcus. They have the same job, they earn the same salary, but they are living in two completely different realities. Okay, so here's Alex. Alex makes $72,000 a year, has some savings, but zero passive income. A pretty normal situation. Then you've got Marcus. Same salary, same job. But Marcus has spent the last 8 years building up a passive income stream of $3,100 a month, which just so happens to cover his fixed costs of $2,800. On the surface, they look identical. Underneath, everything is different.
You see, when Alex is in that stressful meeting, his brain is literally operating at a deficit. Research actually shows that financial scarcity eats up so much mental bandwidth, it's like losing 13 IQ points. It also spikes cortisol, the stress hormone, making him biologically more risk-averse. Marcus, on the other hand, isn't paying that mental tax. His brain is free to think strategically because his survival just isn't on the line.
And this freedom shows up big time in their careers. Alex is just too scared to ask for a raise because the risk feels way too high. Marcus, though, he confidently walked in and negotiated an 11% raise. Why? Because for him, the worst-case scenario isn't a catastrophe, it's an inconvenience. See, the floor doesn't make you complacent, it makes you bold.
The health consequences are pretty stark, too. Alex is stuck in a toxic job that is causing real physical damage. We're talking chronic anxiety, terrible sleep. Studies show this kind of financial stress is literally shortening his life. Marcus? Oh, he quit a similar toxic job 2 years ago, took 4 months off to just reset his brain, and then came back to the market on his own terms. That's a choice Alex simply doesn't have.
And this difference plays out every time life throws a curveball. For Alex, a $1,400 car repair is a full-blown crisis. It spirals into high-interest credit card debt and months of stress. For Marcus, a $900 water heater failure is just an expense. He pays for it and moves on. It's the difference between an annoyance and a catastrophe.
And this is where the long-term difference becomes massive.
During the 2020 market crash, Alex panicked. He had to sell investments to cover expenses, locking in huge losses at the worst possible time. Marcus, with his survival income totally secure, confidently bought more shares right at the bottom. Fear forced Alex to make a terrible decision. Security allowed Marcus to be opportunistic. That single difference creates two vastly different futures.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how is it actually done? Let's shift from the why to the how. Marcus didn't get here by winning the lottery or anything like that. He used a hybrid blueprint that is way more achievable than you might think.
He built his floor on 4 pillars, all at the same time, over 8 years. First, a portfolio of dividend-paying ETFs. Second, 2 small rental properties. Third, some real estate investment trusts, or REITs. And finally, a digital product he created once and now sells automatically.
Now let's break down the numbers. And yeah, that's a lot of capital, about $470,000. But remember, that was put to work over 8 years. And notice the blend here. The single highest income stream, over $1,100 a month, came from a digital course that required an investment of his time, not his money. This hybrid model is exactly what makes the goal so much more attainable.
The legendary investor Charlie Munger once said, "The first rule of compounding is never interrupted unnecessarily." And that right there is the secret superpower of the financial floor. Because Marcus's survival is always covered, he never has to dip into his investments to cover a crisis. He can just let them compound, uninterrupted, forever.
And this brings us to a really counterintuitive truth. The point of this number isn't actually to stop working. The goal is to stop being afraid while you work. It's about changing the fundamental emotional state you bring to your career and really to your whole life. And the data completely backs this up. In every major universal basic income experiment, from California to Finland to Namibia, giving people a financial floor didn't make them lazy. It made them more entrepreneurial, more likely to find full-time work, and more productive. The takeaway is clear. People don't stop working, they start working better.
As the writer Morgan Housel puts it, the real return on your money isn't just the interest you earn, it's the control you gain over your time. It's the ability to make decisions based on what you want to do, not what you're financially forced to do.
There's this great story about the author Joseph Heller. He's at a party, and a friend points out that the billionaire host had made more money in 1 week than Heller had earned from his classic novel, Catch-22, in its entire history. And Heller's response was just perfect. He said, "Yes, but I have something he will never have. Enough." Enough is that point where the existential financial threat just dissolves.
So the question for all of us isn't whether it's possible. The math shows that it is. The real question is this: are you going to start building your floor, or are you just going to keep hoping someone else raises your ceiling? Because other people